Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Sharina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best, cutting edge, recent, most effective, most interesting and fascinating brain body tools from neuroscience, psychology, behavioral science, coaching, health sciences from all different corners of the world geographically and psychologically. So you could take better control of your brain, of your body, of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your decisions, and what's even more important, your actions, so you can create the exact life experience you desire. Folks, today we are speaking about doing the hard things, building the hard habits, overcoming our own inertia that all of us have. That's just the feature of our human brain. There is nothing wrong with you, with your neighbor, with me. Our brain is designed to be lazy, so to speak, to save the energy, to keep us safe, to keep us comfortable. That's how we survived as species. Not being crazy, venturing out there, even though humans are the craziest animal, actually the most dopamine-driven, curious, exploring creature out there, even though our brain does its best to prevent us from engaging too much with danger. Otherwise, our species just wouldn't survive. So all that to say, it is normal to want to avoid hard things, save energy, and not want to get out of your comfort zone and pursue harder things. It's normal. And so every time you decide to get after a harder goal, pursuing something that will require a lot of energy, a lot of trials and errors and failures and not knowing how to do things and overcoming your natural inclinations. Every time you try to do something like that, you're going to feel resistance. And usually the harder the thing, the more resistance you're going to feel. Writers talk about that resistance, that every time you are about to engage with some transformational, difficult, next level project, like there is another force coming up. And that force, to be honest, from what I know now, is probably our own brain, just trying to keep us safe. And the more audacious the project is, your brain kind of knows what's coming, and it tries to talk you out of pursuing those audacious goals because it knows how much work it's gonna take. And as I mentioned, our brain is lazy, wants to keep us safe, saving less energy. So doing hard things, you're always gonna feel resistance. That's just, again, a nature of human brain. And no matter where you need to do more hard things, for everybody at different also stages of our lives, it's different. Sometimes it's business, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's emotional stuff, sports, weight loss. And sometimes it's several things. And we're all working on something. There is not a human being who's perfect all over the place and they have no struggles and no next level and no problems and no issues. I've worked with all kinds of people, folks. I think I even have one billionaire in my clients. At least he's now. Millionaires and regular folks and all kinds of people who have their businesses and people who have careers in companies and people who pursue arts and sports and business. And all of us have these patterns and these struggles that we need to overcome in order to get to our next level. And it's never easy. And it's funny how our unique brains always come up with the perfect excuse for our specific life situation, why we should either quit or stay safe, or why it's difficult and impossible and challenging. Like your brain knows you better than anyone else. And it's always going to come up with the perfect excuse for the perfect situation to keep you safe. Also remember that. So in today's podcast, you're going to learn how to overcome different struggles on the way to achieving your harder, your more challenging goals. Anything from managing your emotions and transforming your emotions, negativity bias into motivation, not loving something or almost hating something like exercise, for example, to the point where you start loving it. And I did it with a few clients of mine, probably around 15 clients that were really not into exercise, but by the end of our work together, they even started competing, a few of them, in the sports of their choice. So you can transform your emotions, and you're going to learn today how to do that. You're also going to learn how to build habits the fastest by science, instead of feeling like you always, you do things, you try a new habit, but then you fall off the wagon and it just keeps happening, keeps repeating. Also, we're going to learn what to do if you're one of those people. And among my clients, there are a few of those people very successful in one area of their expertise, very focused. But that focus also very often makes them very, very forgetful about everything else, like fitness. That is not their priority. Like, how do you stop forgetting all these things that you need to do to take care of yourself? We all have busy life challenges, and it's probably not going to be getting easier for any one of us, especially if you are ambitious, trying to achieve many goals. So how to not forget to do the important thing, to invest into your long-term health, for example. How to motivate yourself. You might be motivated for business, but not as much for health. Or you might be motivated for health and fitness, but not as much for business, like it is in my case. I'm developing my passion for business and finance and marketing. I'm still working on it. So that's not my natural area of feeling motivated. And that's where I'm also not that great, because I haven't spent that much time there. I'm correcting that, but you'll learn how to create motivation for the things that you're not naturally interested in. You're also going to learn a little bit more about dopamine and how learning how to hack your dopamine release can help you create virtuous cycles, for example, in your behavior when you do the thing you don't want to do. And by learning how to work with your dopamine, you want to do more and more and more of that, and you do more of it. And after a while, you start loving that. So a lot of interesting things. Stay tuned and let's dive right in. Let's start with emotion. Folks, I want to tell you a secret. Emotions they don't mean much. They are old stories that your brain tells you about things that happened in your life, about your experience. Emotions are designed to drive you into action, to solve a specific issue or problem very fast. When you feel an emotion, you're driven to either retreat, like not do much, not maybe go for a meeting, not interact with that person, not take the action, or you're driven to pursue an action, whether that's a conversation, a meeting, a new idea for a project. At the basic level, we have different emotions, but they do mean those two things, plus or minus, act or retreat, do or don't do. And the more negative emotion is, the more you retreat, like depression, it's retreating from the world. The more positive the emotion is, being optimistic, being motivated, being happy and cheerful, the more things you want to do. If you think about emotions on that very basic level, these are signals for you to take action. The more positive, the more propensity or the more tendency for you to take action. The more negative, the less there is tendency to take action. Your brain constructs emotions based on your past experience. Emotions are not some magical science from the universe. They are literally your brain changing your biochemistry, your hormonal balance, and creating certain neurotransmitters in your brain itself. So you experience, again, certain feeling to either take action or not. But these interpretations and signals that the brain creates based on your past experience with people, with the world. And when you feel something, it's not an accurate representation of what's happening right now. Your brain does its best to predict what's yet to come. But especially in our fast-paced world where you are in the midst of so many different interactions and environments and contexts, your emotions are at very best not accurate. They're the best guesses. They're all that is. And also, guess what, folks? The brain gives you the emotion, but you don't have to do anything with that. Just like I tell my clients, you might not feel like exercising and you still can exercise. You might not feel like eating this healthy food and you still might eat it. Not everything that feels good for you long term. You probably know that. Donuts feel good, but if you eat them every day, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get sick and fat. And that's just the reality of things if you obviously keep eating them more than other foods or prioritizing that type of foods, but they feel good. See, emotion doesn't mean much. And not only that, you can feel one thing and do another thing. I don't always feel like doing lead generation, learning more about business, or working on certain projects for my clients, delivery of the content pieces or specific outlines and projects and all kinds of presentations. I don't always feel like it. In fact, most of the time, I don't feel like anything special. I might feel this moment sad, the next moment happy. And if I base my work based on that, guess what? I'm going to be a very unreliable type of coach or businesswoman. Emotions don't mean much. And you kind of understand that for work. You can't just not feel like going to work and decide that that's okay, even though people depend on you showing up. We kind of understand that for work, but we forget that the same power we have in our personal life. You don't have to feel like exercising to show up every day for yourself. It's just we humans are designed that way, that social accountability means more to us than personal accountability to yourself. So the first thing you want to understand, and that is what any successful person achieving any hard goal learns, you don't have to act on your emotions. You can feel and think one thing and act based on your values, based on your goals, based on your priorities. But also, you can manufacture emotions, and my clients love this idea about being in the driver's seat and learning how to create emotion. How can you create emotion? As I said, your brain manufactures emotions based on stories that it tells itself or your past experience. But you can also tell new stories to yourself. Like if you don't like exercise, but you'd love to feel better doing the exercise, guess what? Envision yourself being fit, being an athlete, feeling the freedom of movement, playing maybe games or hobbies that you're not able fully to engage with. Imagine yourself looking like a god or a goddess in the mirror. How does that gonna feel? How your life gonna be transformed because of how much confidence you're gonna get from that work that you put into yourself? Yeah, what are you investing in? Like, realize that, for example, things like exercise will create much better future where you are in control of your brain, of your body, and you feel so much more capable and alive and mobile, a joy of movement. So you can create emotion. You can also create emotion by listening to different music. You can create emotion by making yourself feel good for showing up for work. You can also create emotion by looking at the people you admire. A lot of my male clients have some actors or some athletes that they admire and they love how they look and they want to be more like them. So I always suggest them, well, look at their profile, look at their pictures. Remember about your heroes and who you want to be more like. And that will create a different emotion. Listen to motivational speakers, the ones that you love, the ones that you have. Read something every day that changes your emotions. A lot of my clients love reading Stoics because that puts them into a different frame of mind, into a different mental and emotional state, a state of getting things done and showing up no matter what's happening in the world outside of you and inside of you. You can manufacture emotion like this. And once you understand that, Tony Robbins says, change your state, change your life. Once you understand that you have the power to change your state in a nanosecond, literally just envisioning different things in your mind, you can feel like doing cold calls. You can feel like showing up for your exercise. You can feel like, I don't know, what is it that you hate? You can feel like doing that. You can feel like having fun. You can feel driven. Like my evening walks, I don't always feel like going for a walk. Now I also do stair runs and hill runs. I'm in the area where I can do that. But then I put on some favorite music, like I'm all the way up. All the way up, or the king is born, like a lot of motivational stuff. And then I feel like that fire is coming up. By the way, music stimulates your dopamine, the molecule of drive, of motivation, of optimism, this like zest and getting things done, hunting things down. So music is a very powerful motivator. I just read an article in Neuroscience about how music is a universal language, and certain beats, certain lyrics make us feel certain way, and it's again universal, especially the beats, the tunes, the pace. And you probably know that you put on some music and it makes you feel one way, and then when you said you have your other playlist, it's true for absolutely everyone. So how about using that intentionally? So if you don't feel like it, put on your favorite music and you're gonna start feeling like that. I believe that's one of the most important and key aspects of self-development, of self-leadership. You need to understand that your emotions, your thoughts, a lot of them will arise because of what's happening, again, what's been happening in the past 24 hours or before that, what you start thinking about. Like you don't have a lot of control about how things show up, your thoughts, your emotions, but you do have control to pay attention to that and change them in order to feel and think the way you need to feel a thing to perform the action that is aligned with your priorities, goals, and values. So that's at the core of self-leadership, learning how to change your state. And as I mentioned, I've been talking about it for the past at least 5 minutes. That's you can do. And these are the simplest tools. Your visualizations, your images, people you admire, music, text, books you read, all of that change your state. And once you understand that and you start using it in the moment when you need that to show up for the moment as you want, not as randomness will have it, but as you want, your whole life is going to be changed and there is nothing you won't be able to achieve. It's like as simple as diet. I tell my clients, when you're on body transformation journey, you want to build muscle, burn fat, yeah, you're going to feel uncomfortable quite a few times, but guess what? That means nothing. You can change that and your emotions are very fleeting. They come and go. Yes, you feel a little bit hungry. So what? Play Tetris, by the way, confirmed in studies and research that when you play Tetris, your cravings subside. And then in a few minutes, you don't even remember about that hunger. And if you still do, you might eat banana, some tuna, and you're going to be good to go. So feelings mean nothing and you can change them. Now, let's get into dopamine virtuous and vicious cycle. So that will build up on what we just talked about, emotions and how you can change them. So quite a few of my clients understand the benefit of the exercise, but they are more driven towards business pursuits, not towards exercise pursuits. And they ask me, well, Angela, I don't really want to do exercise. How can I start wanting to do it? Like, what's the advice? What's the tip? And I told them, okay, first, realize this concept that you can change your emotion, so start visualizing. But then there is another trick. When you do the hard work, when you do the exercise, even if you don't want to do it, and in the middle of that hard work, and right at the end, you celebrate hard work done, you showing up. You don't have to fake liking, but celebrate, high five yourself, like, yeah, good job, Angela. You didn't want to do it, but you did it. Great job for showing up. Amazing. You did so well. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate that hard work. Make yourself feel good. You do that and you boost dopamine release, that molecule that makes drugs so addictive. Your brain monitors the amount of dopamine released when you perform an activity, when you take any action, when anything happens in your environment. And the more of dopamine released, the more your brain will tell you to perform that action again and again and again. And guess what, guys? The magic here, you can make yourself feel good and boost that dopamine on demand. It doesn't have to happen naturally. Just celebrate the progress. Understand the importance of doing the hard work of you showing up. So the virtuous cycle of dopamine, the molecule of drive, of motivation, of getting things done. You do the hard work, you celebrate yourself, you make yourself feel good. More dopamine is released. The dopamine makes you want to do more of what you just did. And you get more motivation, you get more done, and you celebrate yourself again, and you get more dopamine, and you do more again. And that's the virtuous cycle. And that's how you do hard things over and over and over again. And after a while, you start loving that. And vicious cycle of dopamine is what a lot of people do with hard habits. People would do the hard work, like the exercise or the diet or eating that boring food or doing cold calls or lead generation. People would hate the whole way through it, not celebrating. And guess what? When you're feeling bad and you feel like you hate this thing, your brain gets the signal. It's like, this is something that, is not beneficial for this person. Let's drop the dopamine. With that, your motivation and drive to take that action again drops as well. And the next time you want to do this thing even less, and you have even less motivation, you have even less drive, you hate it even more, and you go down that spiral until you quit. And that is the vicious cycle of dopamine. And the choice is yours. You are in the driver's seat. So how you control the dopamine? By celebrating the hard work done, celebrating yourself for showing up, or by hating this thing and waiting for it to be over. That's how you create either a virtuous cycle that makes you do more of hard thing, or vicious cycle. So try it. All of the tools, folks, that we are talking about, you got to try them for them to work. And it's going to take some time. Give it a week, 2 weeks of consistent practice, and that's when you notice the transformation. And once you understand the power, you're like, man, I'm unstoppable. I can freaking do anything, because whatever I choose, I will show up for that. Do you know how rare that quality is? Virtuous and vicious dopamine cycles. Remember, you have the power. The next one, we kind of already touched upon motivating yourself. So now you realize, first of all, dopamine is the molecule of motivation, and your dopamine loves rewards. And one of the kind of important rewards is understanding your true reason why you do what you do. A lot of my clients, we talk a lot about what's the reason for you to even engage with exercise. You are not naturally motivated. You're not really into fitness. That's just not something you love since you were a kid. So why is that you want to do it? And then my clients would tell me, well, I want to play with my kids. I want to enjoy time with my family. I want to go on adventures. And when I'm 60 and 70, I want to share great experiences again with my kids, with my grandkids. And I want to stay sharp for my business as well. And I want to feel great, full of energy and capable and powerful. So why? Why is, in basic terms, a promise of reward to your brain that this is actually meaningful, that will produce a lot of benefits that mean a lot in our life. And by connecting very tightly, viscerally with all of your sensations to the reason of acting, of taking action, of getting after this goal, you will motivate yourself by simply increasing the amount of dopamine that is released, dopamine that is sensitive to the rewards, to in the future, to, so to speak, profits, what's in it for me. Once you deeply understand what's in it for you for pursuing any goal, and there is also this thing, when it gets hard, remember why you started. This phrase is actually based on a good neuroscience. Why you started is the reason. It's the reward is the future reward that you're promising, that you're telling your brain about. And once your brain understands the reward and the meaning of all of it, you're going to have this motivation. You're going to have the drive. You're going to have the energy. Again, might take some practice, but that's how you motivate yourself. And by the way, people who say motivation doesn't matter, I'll just get discipline. But guess what? To get discipline, you still need motivation. I believe it's from Latin motive, the reason to act. People who are disciplined are very firm in their reason to act. They don't even think about that. That's why it's so hard for a lot of them to communicate how their discipline works. But to motivate yourself, the easiest thing is to understand yourself really well, be self-aware, and understand why you do certain things, why it's important for you to invest into this hard action, into the pursuit of this hard goal. And a couple of other notes on showing up consistently, building habits, building the hard habits that you don't want to do. Back to the emotions. Understand, and that actually comes from one of neuroscientists in Stanford, B.J. Fogg. He wrote this beautiful book, one of the best books actually, Tiny Habits, How to Build Habits. Now he teaches habit formation, culture formation in organizations, works with businesses. But he made me realize through his book, much better than books like Atomic Habits or The Power of Habit or Good and Bad Habits. There are a lot of books about habits, but his work is foundational. If you haven't gotten his book, haven't read his book, I truly recommend you to get it to understand how habits actually work scientifically. And he has this phrase, habit is a function of emotion. He mentioned that several times on one of the communication podcasts from Stanford Talk. Think fast, talk smart. That's the podcast. But anyhow, B.J. Fogg said this phrase, habit is a function of emotion. And I want to add to that, that's why drugs are so addictive. Meaning, back to your dopamine. Whatever gives you the feeling of accomplishment, whatever gives you the feeling of pleasure and spikes your dopamine, that gets wired in your brain. Habit is formed really fast. That's why a lot of drugs, they spike your dopamine, and that's how you get hooked. You get addicted. Like your brain registers this quick spike of dopamine, and it's like, this must be very important, or this must be very rewarding, because dopamine spikes when we pursue things that are meaningful, rewarding, have some benefit to us. But in terms of drugs, the mechanism is hacked. All that to say, that's why drugs are so potent and so addictive, and you form a habit, one and done. Habit is a function of emotion. Why you want to understand that is that if you want to form hard habits faster, again, back to this virtuous cycle of dopamine. You gotta make yourself feel good while doing the habit and right after, not at the end of the month with some spa treatment or maybe some sports car racing thing that the guys do. No, you gotta make yourself feel good while doing the habit and right after. Your brain does not make those far apart connections. So that's what you want to understand. And the next thing you want to understand, if you want to wire hard habits faster, celebrate the hard work, lean into hard work, and make yourself feel like a winner while doing the habit and right after. Again, don't fake liking it, but celebrate your hard work, you showing up for your values, for your goals, for your priorities. Remember, habit is a function of emotion. And so if you want to wire habits faster, stop hating hard habits and asking yourself, why do I have to do that? And start celebrating hard work done. You get to do that because these are your values, these are your goals, these are your priorities, this is your life you want to build. So habit is a function of emotion. And the last, but definitely from the practical perspective, not least interesting, is for those of you folks who are very focused, are very driven for pursuit of your objective, your main objective, be that business or a specific money goal or a specific career goal. For those of you who are really focused, I was talking to a client of mine yesterday, and he's like, well, when I work, my brain just works like this. I get so hyper focused on my projects, things that I got to do, that it's not like I don't want to exercise or I don't want to do foam rolling or all these other things or walking. I don't remember about them. And then by the end of the day, I'm laying in my bed and I'm thinking, I forgot to do this, and I forgot to take a walk, and I forgot to do my minimum viable product workout, basically just a short workout. So how do I make myself not forget about those things? I don't understand my brain. And I told him, well, your brain is doing a great job of keeping you focused on your highest priorities. But to compensate for the tendency of being hyper-focused and not remembering about all the things that are not yet in your natural focus, or you're not that motivated to pursue them, like, for example, personal fitness or getting your steps in. Let's create an environment that will tell you when and what to do. Like, for example, creating hot triggers. A hot trigger, in simpler words, is a reminder that is in your environment and it's positioned in the place and in time when you need to do the habit. So in case of my client, we need to do foam rolling for some recovery and stress management. And so we decided that from now on, his foam roller is going to be living and occupying some space on his bed, ideally on his pillow. So when he goes to bed, he remembers, I need to do foam rolling, and he does at least a couple of minutes of foam rolling every day to start forming the habit. And that's what is called hot trigger. Another thing that we do with him and a lot of my other clients is taking supplements, putting them where they have their breakfast or they have their coffee, something that they already do. And so we put them up there on the counter, right in their face, and they never forget. And they tell me, well, my wife doesn't like it there. She wants to put it away in the cupboard, but when they're away, I forget taking them. So yeah, in this case, I suggest, well, let's get some nicely looking box or some container that kind of fits into the design of the kitchen, and your wife will be happy and you won't forget your supplements. So you see, there is always a way around forming your habits and not forgetting them. So these hot triggers work really, really well, especially if you're in the stage of your life where you have to already keep so many things in your life and you just don't have the capacity. The same thing, watering holes that Alex Hormozi talks about. He doesn't think about, again, taking supplements or drinking water. He just puts stuff where it belongs. Or if you want to eat healthy food, put it in your fridge. When you're hungry, you open up the fridge and it's going to be there. And you don't have to think about what to eat. It's already there, right? So it's hot triggers. It's a very functional, very effective strategy from coaching, from behavioral science, how to make people do more of the things they need to do without forgetting or without having to use willpower. It's very simply, you put things where you're going to use them and when you need to use them, and that usually solves the problem. Like in the case of foam roller, the only problem was putting that foam roller in the morning back so it stays there. And so we don't trip over it somewhere in the living room. Some other clients of mine who we do foam rolling with, they like to do it while watching TV, so we put it there where they watch TV in their like media center. So there are, again, many different ways how you can stop forgetting your habits, and it all has to do with triggers. And again, the way hot triggers work, the most effective way triggers or reminders work is when you position an object that you need to interact with exactly when and where you need to take the action. How this helps folks, definitely helping me. That's how I track my water, my nutrition. It's just I position things where they need to be, and that's how I take action and never forget stuff. It's a lot of that, tips and tricks and hacking your brain into doing what you need to get done. It's not like more successful people have more willpower or the brain that never forgets stuff. No, they just don't keep a lot of stuff in their head. They call it, psychologists, neuroscientists, brain researchers call this distributed cognition, when you don't keep stuff in your head, but instead you create a great system of where you keep your knowledge, where you keep the reminders of things you need to get done. Like if, for example, I need to follow up with someone business-wise, I don't remind myself or try to remember it. I just put it on my calendar for 6 a.m. And when I wake up, I need to follow up with this person. So use this and you'll succeed in this life a lot more often and at a higher level. Again, the more project you will take on, the more you'll realize how you need to outsource some of what you try to keep in your brain. That being said, let's recap and let's get finished. So today we talked about how you are in the driver's seat of your emotional life. Emotions are the stories your brain constructs to take you into action, retreat, or act upon it. Emotions are not any magical signs from the universe. They are just the signals your brain constructs based on your past experience, and they are not accurate, and they often do not correspond with your current values, goals, and aspirations. And the most beautiful thing about emotions, you can change them like this. Change the music, change what you think about, remember about your heroes, listen to motivational speakers, read some good book, and your emotions will change immediately. Visualize something new. Vicious and virtuous cycles of dopamine. One will keep you coming after your hard goals consistently, and the other will make you quit. So what are you contributing to? Celebrate the hard work. That's how you create virtuous dopamine cycle. That's how you show up consistently for hard work, and at the end you will start loving it. The same also applies to motivation. Motivate yourself, understand the reason why, tell your brain the reward, the future you are building, envision it vividly, and you can make yourself motivated for almost anything. And by the way, don't forget, discipline is also needs motivation, because discipline also needs the reason to act. When it gets hard, remember why you started. Habit, a function of emotion, not repetition. Coming from Stanford neuroscientist BJ Fogg, pick up his book Tiny Habits and make yourself feel good. Celebrate the hard work. That's how you wire habits faster. And triggers. If you tend to forget your new habits that are not part of your nature, habits you're not focused on, guess what? You can put reminders all over yourself. Just like Alex Hormozi does, just like my clients do, just like almost any other busy person does who also manages to get all the other small things done. Put reminders, triggers, water bottles, foam rollers everywhere where you need to use them, and you won't forget to do them ever again. Hope you found this useful. Folks, in the show notes, there is always for now, never say, always or never. So there is a strategic planning for health and productivity, all the best tools applied to your specific situation. This session as a gift to you is in the show notes, a link to my Calendly where you can schedule your session really, really fast. So if you're struggling with something in your health, in your productivity, through certain habit formation or patterns, then let me know, schedule our session, and I'll help you out with the most effective tools applied to your goals. And don't forget, please do share this podcast episode with a lot more ambitious, driven people, or people who aspire to be that way, to make amazing things happen in life and in the world. Stay tuned for the next episode, and till next time, stay motivated. Because guess what? You can make yourself motivated in any moment, just like that.